Yeah, I saw the Bayonetta stuff here. I'll pull it up. Yeah, the Bayo drama is getting a little spicy now. If true, Abungi, you are correct. Did you see her email response about wanting to put the franchise behind her and move on to theater work? Seems like she's backtracking big time. No, where's that? No, I did not catch that. It was in the Jason Schreier report. It was updated. Okay, let me pull that up. Oh, shit. What just got deleted from this? You see Ezra Miller is facing up to 26 years in prison. God damn, no. Well, it seems like a lot happened. I haven't been on Twitter much today. Someone on Reddit posted your 11th grade yearbook. I saw. Pretty cool. I told you I was quite the ball player. I could have gone pro. Remember when people were making a big deal about Amaranth's situation? Now it's all forgotten. Big L? What are you talking about? Oh, you're that guy with nothing but the worst takes of all time. I recognize your name. Doing alright. Yeah, we're gonna go over the new Bayonetta stuff. This is getting to be a very interesting piece of drama. Actually, I'll also pull up Young's video on it. I haven't seen it yet. Olivia Wilde, Salad, Harry Styles drama. What a confusing riddle. No, I haven't started this going over it yet. But there's been a lot of new information on this Bayonetta stuff. And what was the other thing? Something else someone brought up at the beginning that I've already forgotten. Not about Bayonetta. Fuck was it? I don't remember now. Thanks a gift sub Goblin. Oh yeah, the Ezra Miller stuff, thanks. Any news about Amaranth? Yeah, she's talked about this stuff on her stream. I still can't make heads or tails on if her and her husband are staying together. I couldn't tell you. But she is safe. And even did a stream today. And spongy. What's the stat? I can't remember what it was, but it usually takes a domestic abuse victim 5 attempts at leaving before they finally fully leave or something. It's a really fucked up cycle, unfortunately. Is it 7? Jesus, even higher than I thought. Have I been following the Rooster Teeth drama? Yeah, I went over it the other day. I don't think there's been anything new, though. At least not that I've seen. Thanks, Resub Revo. Yeah, we'll start with the Bayonetta stuff, since that's one that I'm very familiar with. So, Bayonetta's voice actress, Helena Taylor, made the massively viral post talking about why she's not voicing Bayonetta in the third game. She claimed it was because they only offered her $4,000 for the whole game. A few hours ago, reports from Jason Schreier, from trusted sources in the industry, said that they were familiar with the contract and claimed that it wasn't $4,000 total, it was $4,000 per session. And I think for 5 sessions, so it would have been like 20 grand. I don't know if that's like industry standard or the norm or what, but it's definitely different than what she was leading people to believe. So regardless of like where that actually stands relative to other voice actors, she still outright misled people. Young, yeah, who is a voice actor, says it's very good. You know what, why don't we just start there and then we'll work backwards.
The plot thickens surrounding the Bayonetta 3 situation, ladies and gentlemen. For those who haven't been keeping up, Helena Taylor, who originally played Bayonetta before she dropped out for Bayonetta 3, posted a video in which she...
Apparently 1K per session is the standard, meaning they offered her quadruple the normal rate for standard. And she's part of the union, right? So that's union standard, I would guess. Very interesting. She demanded 6 figures. Yeah, that's what I read in the report as well. You're getting ahead of this, though. You're getting into spoilers. But yeah, apparently she was demanding 6 figures for her role. Again, I'm not familiar with like AAA voice acting rates. I don't know if that's an outrageous ask or not, but that's what we're here to learn.
Implored fans to boycott Bayonetta 3 because she refused to play the role of Bayonetta as a result of being offered a low pay of $4,000 flat to play the character for the entire game, which is why she dropped out, and then
Makes it a bit
Jennifer
edgy. Sorry
Hale
to hear
took
that.
over. She called out Kamiya specifically for making her that $4,000 flat deal after they had lowballed her even worse. And she also did call out Jennifer Hale for saying that she's now Bayonetta, insisting she has no right to say that because Helena helped create the role and the performance and all these things. I think calling out Jennifer Hale was in bad taste.
Agreed. I think that was very shitty. Said that from the get-go. That really rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know why she's getting all pissy at Jennifer Hale for taking the role. That makes no sense. That was very, very salty. Like, needlessly, at someone unrelated to the issue you had. To give you an idea of how bad non-union payments are, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero's dub was non-union and the VAs were paid 150 to 300 max. The movie made 200 mil. Jesus Christ. How do you even find non-union workers? Back when I was like actively trying to do voice acting, I was unable to get any roles because they only go through the union. And that shit is like a mafia. The voice acting union is cutthroat to be a part of. So I don't even know how you find non-union workers. Like Fiverr? I don't even know where it comes from. The Mob Psycho VA got cut because he wanted to work with his union under contract. I actually saw that video. Yeah. I did see that.
Because Jennifer Hale, she's just a voice actor. She doesn't make these corporate decisions, and voice actors often aren't informed about pertinent information, which is why Jennifer Hale had to put out this statement about how, as a longtime member of the voiceover community, I support every actor's right to be paid well and have advocated consistently for this for years, and that anyone who's followed me will know that, my reputation speaks for itself. And on top of everything, she said, I wish I could say more, but I'm under NDA. She also asked people to consider that the game's being made by an entire team.
I think it was a
team of people
statement.
who, had no say in Helena Taylor's pay, and that she hopes that all of this ultimately resolves itself in an amicable and respectful way. Now, this issue isn't helped by how silent Nintendo, Platinum Games, and Hideki Kamiya have been, though Hideki Kamiya did tweet this, where he called Helena's video messages sad and deplorable due to an attitude of untruth, suggesting the possibility that there might be more to the story than meets the eye, some context we don't know that might change our perspective on things. Though for many it was harder to give him the benefit of the doubt because he insisted on going on his blocking spree. It's almost become like a joke that he blocks everyone who don't follow his rules or whatever, but during a serious conversation and discussion, he should have dispensed with this and actually engaged with people and, communicate, because, there are a lot of sides to this story that are still not entirely clear. But one potential clarification may come in the form of this Bloomberg article titled "A Tens Pay Dispute Overshadows Nintendo's Upcoming Bayonetta 3." This was an investigation conducted by reporter Jason Schreier via Bloomberg here. And going through the article, we'll find some interesting details regarding what might have transpired behind the scenes. At this point, it's all kind of hearsay from multiple sides. We still don't know the ultimate truth, but this could potentially shed more light on what might have happened behind the scenes, another angle that we may not be considering.
A lot of people, from what I saw on Twitter in the industry, came forward to confirm the report. I don't remember who all it was. I only briefly scrolled it, at the Lightning game. But there were a couple people that would come forward to corroborate this statement from the Bloomberg article. So it's not 100% confirmed by any means, but it does seem to have a lot of industry professionals coming out to say yeah, this was the real case more so. But again, not 100% at the moment. Thoughts on the huge Lightning L? Yeah, it hurt seeing it in person. Going up 2-0 and then letting up 3 unanswered goals and just getting fucking steamrolled. Yeah, it was rough. Made worse by the fact that the guy behind us just kept saying the same 2 things over and over. Anytime the Lightning touched it, he'd say, "Shoot it!" And anytime they didn't touch it and were even near another opponent, he'd just say, "Lay him out!" Over and over and over and over again. Thanks for some Childish and Pete.
The article does point out the important context that game actors have long complained about being underpaid and underappreciated. The article even brings up the 2016 SAG-AFTRA strike, where actors were trying their damnedest to essentially make residuals a standard for video game voice acting and for just voice acting in general, though that was one area where voice actors couldn't win, so instead it was agreed upon that voice actors would receive bonuses based on the number of sessions they work. What residuals allow for is essentially the more successful a product that an actor was involved in is, the more they'll get paid, which is kind of how it works in every other entertainment sector like TV, film, music, you name it. This has been a hot button issue for a while now, and the pot surrounding this discussion boiled over once more when Helena Taylor released that video alleging an incredibly insulting pay for the kind of work that she was doing, playing the lead of a multi-million-dollar franchise, an iconic lead at that. But this article presents a different version of what might have transpired behind the scenes based on accounts from two people who are familiar with negotiations and based on documentation that Bloomberg itself actually reviewed. The report states that the developers were actually eager and determined to rehire Helena Taylor. I've seen a lot of people theorizing that Helena Taylor was intentionally lowballed so that Platinum Games could hire somebody with a more prominent name like Jennifer Hale. This article seems to refute that based on what they have heard from their sources. Delving into the specifics, Platinum Games sought to hire Helena Taylor for at least 5 sessions, each paying $3,000 to $4,000 for 4 hours in the studio, said the people who asked not to be identified because they aren't authorized to discuss private contract negotiations. Bloomberg aptly points out that this would make the total for voicing Bayonetta for the entirety of Bayonetta 3 at least $15,000, somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, which is certainly better than the $4,000 flat fee to voice Bayonetta for the entire game that Helena Taylor claims she was actually offered. But
I do still find that to be kind of low, but again, I'm unfamiliar with the industry. I feel like 15 grand for what I imagine to be a lot of work is still kind of low, but I don't know what it's usually like for voice actors to begin with. Apparently, it's very high, according to some people. But again, I'm not positive. But regardless, it's a complete contradiction to what Helena Taylor was alleging. So if that's true, then Helena Taylor just fucking lied and manipulated people. Keep in mind, she's not doing the mocap like most other games out right now. Oh, true, I guess. How is that low? Because I imagine think of a AAA game. Think of how many lines go into it for like one character and how many hours of work that must be. Of course, I haven't played Bayonetta 3, but I don't know, it just seems like 15K for that kind of work seems a bit low. Like, it's a massive game, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of dialogue. It feels like it'd be a lot. But again, I don't know. If it's 4 hours, 4K, it's 1K an hour. Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, like, the whole thing just feels much lower than I would have expected. Like, 4 hours to do a big game like that, like in these sessions, just seems significantly off. Like, I just can't imagine it being that quick. But I guess even still.
Apparently, according to Bloomberg sources, Helena Taylor was not happy with that pay offer either, and instead asked for a 6-figure sum as well as residuals on the game. Platinum declined, and following lengthy negotiations, took auditions for a new actor. Now, to give you some context on how these numbers compare to what the current standards are when it comes to union video game voiceover, I've shown this before, but here are the typical rates that you can expect as a video game voice actor. This one right here you see pretty frequently. Essentially, one day, that's up to 4 hours of performance and up to 3 voices for $1,000. That's one session. The $3,000 to $4,000 that Helena Taylor was allegedly offered, according to Bloomberg sources, would be 3 to 4 times the minimum requirements. Now, by voiceover standards, that's considered to be among the more generous offers you'll see in the video game voiceover realm. But
do people not think that that's still low for voice actors, though? I don't know. To me, for these massive titles, that just feels kind of lowballing what they're actually bringing to the project. No, just me then? Especially for someone... Let's take, for example, a voice like Goku in the dub of Dragon Ball. That guy has permanently damaged his voice to do that role. And I feel like if you're getting paid 15K for, like, let's say that, like a... I don't know. What would that be? A season? Probably wouldn't be a season. I don't know, it just feels like going through all of that for like a season of work. I don't know. That's such a one-off, though. How is Goku a one-off? He's like, what? Huh? That's different, though. How is it different? It's the same thing. It's an iconic voice. Helena Taylor lended an iconic voice to Bayonetta. I don't see how that's very different from Goku. Just Goku's been in the game longer. It's kind of the same thing, though. I don't see what the difference is. 1K an hour is good money. I get that. I'm well aware that that's good money. I'm just saying, comparing that to like normal acting or literally like anything else where you are like the star of a massive franchise feels low. I don't understand. Like, take for example an actor in a TV show. Maybe you don't lend as much, or maybe you lend more like hours to it, but you're still at the same level. Like, you make that show better because it's you lending your talent to it. No different than a voice actor lending their voice to an iconic character. But again, it could just be me. Maybe it's just my perspective that I think voice actors don't get paid a ton. I couldn't say for sure. You're comparing video games to TV shows, but I didn't initially. I compared I compared video game to something equal. Goku, another voice actor. It's really the same. Goku screaming his lungs out, though, kind of big difference. I suppose I don't see why that would have a massive effect on like a pay discrepancy. Voice actors are famously underpaid. Well, apparently not famously, because I haven't heard too much about underpaid voice actors or anything. It just, to me, being like the iconic voice to a character feels like it would be on par with or very slightly less than something else in a similar medium where you are the star.
Compared to other industries and sectors where you get paid more upfront and you get residuals, it still pales in comparison, which is why assuming that
Bayo is not a big game. What is the standard for big game in your eyes? That is a over $500 million franchise, and they only have 2 games coming out with a third right now. I'd say it's a pretty fucking popular franchise. No, it's not. Now you're just literally arguing with facts. Is this what this has devolved to? Oh, is this really where we're at? You're just arguing something you have no idea about? Here, this is without merch, by the way. Here, let me pull it up. Which source do you trust the most? And I'll pull it from there. Because all of them are saying $500 million in profit, and that excludes merchandise. And these are older ones that aren't even quoting the Helena Taylor stuff. Where should I pull it? I didn't get one guide. That was a ton of people that all of a sudden said I was wrong about it being a $500 million franchise. Like, what do you mean? That was a lot. That was a flood of people that all said the same goddamn thing. Like, it just takes a simple Google search to immediately find this information. Like, it's really not hard. I don't know why you'd confidently say wrong when you have no idea. Now, you can, of course, argue with me on my take of, like, voice actors or actresses that are iconic voices not getting paid what I would have expected. That's fine. We can disagree there. But now you're just arguing with a legitimate fact of the profit the game make. Exit Prime, Steve. I trust Joe's site. Okay. Might as well get it from there.
this is true, demanding a 6-figure sum for 5 sessions worth of voiceover, even if you're the lead in a major video game IP, would not be something that I don't think any game company would ever consider unless you are a well-known big star. Unless you're someone whose name alone can help boost the marketing of a game. And, I mean, Helena Taylor, while people love her performance...
The chatter was right, the franchise is not that successful. 1 was a flop, 2 was made because of Nintendo. The 450 mil was pulled out of her ass. Well, I'm curious because these are older articles here. Here, let's look up. Let's do this then. Let's go game by game. Bayonetta 1 sold 200,000 physical copies on release. And then, where do we go from here? Where do you find the more up-to-date numbers as opposed to Wikipedia? Bayonetta 2 sold 1 mil on release to the Switch port, and then the Wii U sales are around 400k. The first Bayonetta broke 1 million over time because it became a cult classic. Here, Bayonetta 1... Here, I don't know why I'm doing it off screen. Bayonetta 1 sold over 1.1 million. And then Bayonetta 2 on release was over 1 million on the Switch port release day. And the Wii U numbers were 400k. So what does this all come out to then? I wouldn't necessarily call 1.1 million on Bayonetta, the first one, to be a flop. Because this is a 13-year-old article. Oh, Jesus, from Jim Sterling. So I imagine this number has only grown over the last 13 years for the first game. Yeah, I know 2 only got greenlit because Nintendo picked up the bill for it. I'm well aware of that. That's why I thought Nintendo was probably the one behind the budgeting for voice actresses, or the voice actress with the $4,000 offer. But I don't think 1 million copies 13 years ago is a flop by any measure. It was Platinum Games' most commercially successful game at the time. Yeah, but Platinum Games always had cult classics. That doesn't say a whole lot. I think the actual numbers are more indicative of the success. Platinum Games used to fly under the radar for a while. Is your Subarctic? Was it $500 a copy? This is just the first game. This isn't even the second game. What? The argument was that Bayonetta 1 flopped. But it clearly didn't. 1 million copies is not a flop. 13 years ago. And then here's a more up-to-date one. Bayonetta has sold over 2 million copies. Like, that's just not a flop. That's just the first game. And the second one was bigger. What did the second one do, though? Let's see. The second one has done 1 million copies as of December 31st, 2021, according to the Wikipedia. But then according to this, it's done... The fuck is this? What is this notation? Okay, it looks like this is probably accurate. Another million. Oh, this is just the Switch version. Oh, right. What was the Wii U? What did I say? It was like 400k according to that other source. So do 1.5. I don't know what that comes out to. Maybe not 500 million, but I still don't think under any circumstances it's not a big, or it can be considered a small title. 400k was Wii U, the most financially floppy console ever. An actual scam of a console. The Switch port did 1 mil. It's like a AA franchise. What are these takes? What? That's a lot. Over 3 million total. Like, I feel like that's quite a lot. Definitely AAA, but nowhere near as big as Helena makes it out to be. I guess not. Then they need to go back and change some of those articles celebrating the Bayonetta crossing of $400 million. How many sales did Mass Effect Andromeda do? I don't even see how that's relevant. No clue. Nier sold 6.5 mil and made 400.
Performances Bayonetta, it's not a widely known name that would ever convince a company to shell out 6 figures for 5 sessions worth of voiceover. So assuming there's truth to this, it should come as no surprise that Platinum declined the counteroffer and following lengthy negotiations took auditions for a new actor. Also, according to the article, even after Taylor turned down the role, Platinum did try to bring her in for at least a cameo. Platinum later offered Taylor a cameo in the game.
What are these standards? Selling 4 million is good, especially for the budget of Bayonetta. And it didn't sell 4 million. It'd be like around like 3.5. That is good. I don't understand. Not everything's going to be Call of Duty numbers, man. How old are you? I don't get it. Yeah, apparently the 400 million is off, I suppose. But by no means is that not good. I don't understand where this is coming from. Over 15 years? Yes, over 15 years. It's not like they had expenses from Bayonetta for 15 years. They had a budget, they made the game, and everything that goes over budget is good. Let's see what the Bayonetta budget was. Fine. We'll get real into the weeds of it here since everyone's like a legitimate expert game developer and businessman. Here we go. Let's see. Where was the budget for the first Bayonetta? And it sold 2 million copies, is what we looked at. And you are? I'm just looking at numbers. Like, I'm literally looking at numbers. Like, I'm no expert, but the numbers are pretty obvious. Why can't I find, like, a full write-up on the budget? Here's an article about how it was almost destroyed Platinum Games from 7 years ago. Let's see. Does it give a number? No. And it almost destroyed it because of crunch. Yikes. That's not surprising, though. Most games have, like, crazy crunch now. Why is it such a heated topic? I don't know. I didn't think it was such a controversial take. But apparently anything that's under 8 figures of hard copy sales is a flop. Does anyone have a source for the budget on Bayonetta? I think it's the prime average. Not a flop, just not that big. Now we're moving the goalposts. The whole thing was, it was a flop. Saying it's not that big is fine if you're comparing it to the other massive titles, but it is still big and not a flop. You're just moving goalposts now. To Platinum Games, it was a flop since they were disappointed in sales, which makes sense why no other company wanted to pick up the series. What? Didn't this article just say how it was their most popular one and they were extremely happy? The only problem was the crunch made the workers miserable? I don't see how 2 million is a flop. Especially to Platinum Games. They said their PS3 port was their biggest failure. I don't see anything about them being disappointed. Here. This is the biggest failure for the PS3 port. PS3 was notoriously hard to develop games for. Well, couldn't tell you. I never developed a game for the PS3. Platinum Games, as well as the director Kamiya, had way too high expectation or opinions of themselves. What, for the game? Like projections? That's super possible. Kamiya definitely sounds like a delusional man who probably would have expected it to be the biggest franchise since Grand Theft Auto. I'd believe that.
For the fee of one session, which she turned down, the people said. The fee for one session in her case would be somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. I'm curious as to whether when Helena Taylor said that I was offered a one-time fee of $4,000 flat to play Bayonetta for the entire game, if she was actually referring to this one-time fee to make a cameo after she turned down the initial offer of $3,000 to $4,000 per session. In fact, that does line up with how she framed circumstances in part 3 of her video messages.
For the role, and obviously passed with flying colours. They then sent me an insulting offer.
That insulting offer, was that the $15,000 to $20,000 for the 5 sessions? And then...
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to write to Hideki Kamiya. I'm going to write to him and ask him for what I'm worth.
Ask him for what I'm worth might be referring to the 6 figures counteroffer that Bloomberg is reporting.
I know he read it because I got a reply. That was when they offered me...
The fact he replies blows my mind instead of just blocking her.
So that $4,000
like in
might
person
be
blocking
the,
her.
well, we've already recast the role because you turned down our initial offer and we have to cast this character. But hey, we're offering you a cameo at least. Would you like to do a cameo for, you know, that one-time session fee for $4,000? I think that's what actually might have taken place. And if that's the case, Helena misrepresented the situation. She made it sound like $4,000 was the most Platinum Games was willing to offer for her to play Bayonetta for the entirety of Bayonetta 3, when the actual offer was closer to $15,000 to $20,000. That's definitely a different story. Helena does not detail what that initial insulting offer was before she got the $4,000 flat fee rate. Now, Bloomberg did reach out to Helena Taylor, and she claims that everything Bloomberg is reporting here, based on the 2 sources that they spoke to, is an absolute lie, and said that Platinum was trying to save their asses and the game. She said she stood by everything she said in the video, and stated, I would like to put this whole bloody franchise behind me, quite frankly, get on with my life in the theater. Well, Helena was the one who instigated this whole situation, so there's really no putting this behind us until we hopefully figure out exactly what happened behind the scenes. You know, I wasn't there at Platinum seeing all this transpire, so I couldn't tell you one way or another who to side with or whatever, though the fact that Jason Schreier and Bloomberg were confident enough in the information that they received from their sources to publish this article, not only based on the account of these two sources, but documentation they reviewed, might lend this story credence. Perhaps there is something to what Hideki Kamiya said about an attitude of untruth, him saying that there is more to the story than what was known back then. Something else that the article points out, and that I also found out, is that Bayonetta 3 is in fact a union project, so they have to offer, at the very least, union rates. I already showed you that SAG-AFTRA PDF, but Bloomberg echoes that this essentially means a minimum of about $900 to $1,000 for a 4-hour voice-over session, plus bonuses. Prominent actors or franchise stars like Taylor usually make more.
That's what I wondered. Like, how they would even be able to offer that if it was union work. That's what I said day one. I don't remember what the response was, but yeah, that makes sense. So,
that means
very misleading
is that the $4,000 flat rate to voice Bayonetta for the entire game, that's a very unusual thing that would actually break the SAG-AFTRA guidelines. If a project is union, you cannot pay a flat fee, assuming this is how many sessions and how many hours it'll likely take to record for the whole game. You have to pay session by session. So given that Bayonetta 3 is union, Helena saying that she was offered a $4,000 flat fee doesn't make much sense. That could potentially lend further credence to the theory that when she said $4,000 flat fee, she was actually referring to a one-time session fee of $4,000 to make a cameo after she turned down the role. And if that is indeed the case, the way she framed her side of the story would be a woeful misrepresentation of what actually transpired. Now, the story's still developing, so I'm still holding out judgment until we hear more, but there are aspects to how Helena has presented her circumstances that don't fully add up. Helena insists that the information in this article is a complete lie, that her side of the story is the truth. I feel like it's time for her to start showing some receipts at the...
To be fair, she never fully explained if it was 4,000 for the whole thing. She just heavily implied it. So, like, at best, let's assume there's a world where she really thought people knew it was 4,000 per session, which nobody in their right fucking mind would ever think that. She still portrayed it completely incorrect. There's nothing that's a lie here, then, in that case. She never said it was 4,000 for the whole session. She just really heavily implied it. I don't understand what her fucking goal was, then. Because obviously this wouldn't stick for long, and she gains nothing from this. Now she just has no career. She'll never get another acting role. Well, voice acting role, I guess. Because no one's going to work with her. She's incendiary. It just completely ruined it for her forever. She did say it? No, if I remember correctly, in the initial video, she said the final highest offer was $4,000 for the whole game. Oh, actually, I guess that is kind of explicitly saying it. Now that I say it out loud, in my head, there was still wiggle room. Thanks to resub Chiefin and Zay. She said the article's lying, though. Yeah, I guess we'll see, but I feel like having the industry professionals chime in to confirm the authenticity of it, and the fact that it was union work, meaning that it would have had to, at the very least, been union pay, makes it very hard for her case. Having written proof of the deal makes it GG. True.
At the very least, some evidence that, you know, the offer that she was made was true. Maybe some of the communications that took place. I mean, she already broke NDA, and she said she's not afraid of NDA, so if she really wants to solidify her stance on this and highlight that her side of the story is the truth, then presenting evidence would potentially be the best course of action. Jason Schreier added additional context through his tweets here, where he presented all of the information already in the article, but also added that accounts and evidence reviewed by Bloomberg make it clear that those videos from Helena Taylor were not the whole story. And perhaps this is what Jennifer Hale is also insinuating by retweeting this thread, pointing to it, where voice actor Ben Diskin tweets about how critical thinking is a skill that needs to be taught as its own subject in school, before essentially offering guidelines on how to cross your T's and dot your I's before formulating a definitive opinion about something or presenting things as fact when in fact it could be misinformation. I'm not going to read through all of this, but you get the idea.
There's a whole
you can read it
tutorial
for yourself. Trying to insinuate that Helena did not present the full picture of that situation. And then lending further credence to Jason Schreier's report is that it was corroborated by Stephen Totilo, who's heard sort of similar things. He tweeted, "I recently heard from a good source about the $15,000 offer to Helena Taylor, Platinum Second, higher offer, I believe, but wasn't able to second source it." So Jason Schreier essentially is that second source, though Stephen Totilo hadn't heard about the counteroffer of 6 figures plus residuals. Somebody else who corroborated this was Andy Robinson from Video Games Chronicle, who said, "I can corroborate Jason Schreier's reporting over the Bayonetta 3 pay dispute, a sad and messy situation according to his sources." Now, people across the internet have widespread opinions about how much Helena Taylor should be paid to reprise the role of Bayonetta, this iconic character and the lead of the Bayonetta series, for the 3rd major outing. Some people are saying $15,000 to $20,000. That sounds about right. Others are saying that the 6 figures that she was allegedly asking for doesn't seem unreasonable. Whatever your opinions on that front might be, I think Stephen Totilo put it aptly. If the $15,000 offer is accurate, note that Taylor is denying Bloomberg's account, there will still be room for debate about what video game voice actors get for big roles. They still don't get residuals. For voice actors, residuals is the big sticking point. Voice actors feel that, much like how it happens everywhere else, their pay should scale to how successful the product that they contributed to is. When so much of why people become attached to these major gaming IPs, especially the more story-driven, character-driven ones, is because of the performances that actors provide, many feel like they deserve more than the bare scraps and minimum that they're getting right now, and residuals would be a great way to solve this issue, or at least mitigate it, by making it so that actors do get paid more if a game ends up doing really, really well, because game companies, studios, and publishers can more than afford to pay their actors more. Someone else who put it aptly was Daniel.
So you agree when he says it? That's what I was saying. More or less. I don't know shit about residuals, but, like, again, I still think, like, it seems a bit low compared to all the other industries. But again, I have no, like, reference scale for the AAA voice acting scene. It's just compared to everything else I've ever heard of from the other mediums where it's kind of equal in terms of work, it seems much, much lower on average. But yeah, I don't know shit about residuals here. I didn't know if is that normal in, like, movies, TV shows, and anime, and cartoon voice acting or anything like that? Well, music, of course it is. That's where music artists make, like, all of their money. The only residuals I've ever really heard of in movies are, like, Robert Downey Jr. with Marvel. C-Dog has always talked about low pay in voice acting industry. If you didn't know, the VA and his username stands for voice actor. I'm very well aware Connor's a voice actor. Yeah. I just didn't know it was such a widespread thing. I've never really heard too much about voice actors not getting paid well. So I always just assumed it was near other industry standards, but again, even at that 15 to 20K for the iconic voice, that to me sounds a bit low. But it seems like to a lot of other people it doesn't. Even if it's the norm, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's great. For example, like hiring waiters and waitresses and having them rely on tips for part of their paycheck is the norm, but I still think that's shitty. There's definitely a better way. It's not exactly a difficult job. I can't wait for you to break into the voice acting scene with those golden pipes.
Ahmad when he tweeted, "I hope that whatever the outcome of this situation is, it doesn't take away from the actual discussion that should be taking place about unfair compensation across the voice acting and voiceover industry and how residuals need to become industry standard." I couldn't agree more. Regardless of how all this pans out and who's being more truthful, the fact remains that voice actors are currently woefully underpaid. That's why many voice actors' first reaction to Helena's video messages was, "Oh yeah, that sounds about right," or "Yeah, I've experienced something very similar." The fact remains that the floor of how voice actors are compensated is way too low, and that the video game industry needs to do better, because they make so much freaking money, especially out of the AAA games, and for actors to get a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that is just insulting, especially when we're talking about actors who play these significant roles that majorly contribute to people's emotional attachment to the game or to the IP as a whole for future entries. I think it's worth bringing up in this video what the voice actor of Nico Bellic from GTA 4, Michael Hollick, shared back in May of 2008 through this New York Times article titled "A Video Game Star and His Less Than Stellar Pay." Here are two paragraphs that are very relevant for today's topic. Mr. Hollick was paid only about $100,000 over roughly 15 months between late 2006 and early this year for all of his voice acting and motion capture work on the game,
the mocap
with
too?
zero
Jesus.
royalties or residuals in sight. He said, had this been a television program, a film, an album, a radio show, or virtually any other sort of traditional recorded performance, Mr. Hollick and the other actors in the game would have made millions by now because GTA 4 was so damn successful. It's Grand Theft Auto we're talking about, the biggest piece of entertainment as far as pure revenue is concerned. As it stands, they get nothing beyond the standard Screen Actors Guild day rate they were originally paid. Now, have standards gotten better since 2008? Yeah, a little bit, especially after that 2016 strike, but not by a whole lot. So yeah, I do think that these are discussions that need to continue to happen, especially when it comes to video games, an industry that makes more money than the film industry does. Game companies have the money and resources to pay actors more, to pay them more reasonably. They just choose not to. And the union standards being so low doesn't help matters either. Now, putting all that aside, when it comes to the topic of Bayonetta 3 and the controversy going on there, yeah, a lot of mixed messages, some additional information that is absolutely worth keeping in mind as this story continues to develop. I do want to see if Helena Taylor responds to what this article presents, because the ball is in her court now, and I feel like it is time for her to provide more evidence beyond just these video messages. You know, show some of the communications that happened that potentially prove that you were in fact offered a $4,000 flat fee to voice Bayonetta for the entirety of Bayonetta 3. I'm all for fighting for higher rates, but even that fight has to be fought right. It cannot be fought through misinformation and through essentially blaming parties in a way that doesn't accurately highlight what actually happened.
I am curious if she'll ever even
out that Platinum
comment on
Games
this
is
again.
being more truthful,
I feel like she'll just go
then
dark.
Helena Taylor will have made the discussions surrounding, you know, how voice actors should be treated just that much more difficult, because she essentially approached in bad faith. If she's intentionally withholding or misrepresenting information, then it's just going to make it that much harder for everyone to negotiate with clear and cool heads. And along the way, she'll have instigated unwarranted backlash against Platinum Games and Jennifer Hale, who took on the role after Helena Taylor refused. I will say that this Bloomberg article, the context that this could potentially provide, and the information that we have now does cast shadows of doubts on Helena's side of the story, but I want to wait and see if Helena responds in a way that maybe sheds even more light on things. With stories like these where it's hearsay from two sides, I tend to find that usually the truth lies...
It's not really from two sides yet, because Platinum Games hasn't officially come out, so right now this is still just, like, around the property. It's still not, like, directly from the horse's mouth. I do wonder if they're going to take legal action against her since she broke NDA and made very bad faith, misleading, viral videos. Even calling for a boycott to financially cripple the game and its profits. I feel like they probably will pursue legal action. They'd have every right to, assuming everything she said is a lie. Well, even if it's not, she still broke NDA, so they could still probably pursue something. Depends on the deal, but Depends on the deal, but most video games rarely do royalties to VA. Shows, movies usually do have royalties, so even small roles often net more over time than gaming. Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't know anything about, like, actually working in movies or anything like that, so I don't know shit about the residuals. Is it NDA even if you didn't accept the contract? Usually, even to see the contract, you have to sign an NDA. That's not even voice acting standard, that's just business standard. For example, if anyone even wants to, like, talk to Matt or me about something in the business world, they make you sign an NDA. It's just the industry standard for anything business related. Thanks for your sub safety. Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. Par for the course. NDAs are so scary. I mean, yeah, I guess they can be. You didn't get residuals from Hunger Games? Yeah, can you believe that shit? I didn't get any residuals. I don't remember what I got paid either. It's been so long now. I don't remember. There's a Prime Turtle. Was it not 500? I really couldn't tell you. It wasn't like bad for like 2 weeks of work as a college student. Like it really wasn't bad. I remember being like, oh, this is a nice take home. I'll spin this at the bar. Like it was fine for me. I don't know if there was enough there for like a career as a low level actor, but it seemed fine.
Somewhere in the middle, and hopefully we can put this behind us and begin to discuss constructively about how voice actors should be paid and how they should be treated, and how we should raise the floor of the current minimum requirements, which are far too low, and how residuals should become a standard in this industry. Because at the end of the day, if voice actor compensation were at a place where it should be, I don't think we'd be dealing with the situation at all. I don't think we'd be hearing from Helen. I don't think this whole controversy would have started in the first place. The reason this conversation keeps cropping up is because there's so much disillusionment surrounding how voice actors are paid and treated by game companies. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the information shared by
Young always
Jason
does a great
Schreier
job
and
on these
Bloomberg.
videos.
Does this shift your perspective and opinions about this whole Bayonetta 3 controversy? Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
Interesting situation. Super excited to see what Helena Taylor has to say about all of it. Or if she'll say anything about all of it. I don't think she will. What did you get paid for Tropico 5? I don't think I did get paid. I don't remember. Most of the shit I do, like voice acting or any of that, I just do for free. How much would you charge for voice acting, though? What, like... that's not like a fair question to ask, because I don't need the money from voice acting. I would just do it for fun. Now, if I was like a professional whose like entire living was based off it, it'd be totally different.